Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Tamimi from Solace. If you missed out on our first episode of the Solace Community Lightning Talks, don't worry about it. I've got you covered. The second talk featured Jamil, an SE from Solace, who talked about comparing different machine learning capabilities for different cloud providers using sentiment analysis and image analysis. Check it out, and don't forget to leave your comments and discussions on our community thread on Solace the Community. Without further ado, I will be introducing our next speaker for the day, which is Jamil. Jamil, welcome to the stage.
Hey, Tamimi. Hey, thanks for the invite. Kind of really happy to be here. And I've got my slides ready to go. I'll hit share screen for you just now.
Perfect. Yeah, share your screen, and once you're ready, I will put your screen feed in. As you're getting this, okay, I see your screen. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward for this for your talk. So I will get off stage, give the stage to you, Jamil, and if anyone has any questions from the audience, feel free to ask a question. So Jamil, your screen is shared. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So as Tamimi said, this particular demo and talk is about comparing machine learning and the services available from the big cloud providers. The focus to that is picking up news articles, especially from CNN, and zeroing in on two particular machine learning capabilities, so sentiment analysis and image analysis. So machine learning is kind of a big space. So as part of doing this comparison, I picked the two things that I had come across from a service perspective within my kind of day job before joining Solace. The first one is kind of image analysis. So you're taking an image, or it could even be extended for video feeds, for example, and it's basically describing or annotating what's in the image, right? So for humans, this is very easy to do. You can look at an image, you can see that's a car, that's a person, that's a face. This is all very kind of easy and intuitive for us to do. For machines, if you were to code this once upon a time, right, it was kind of prohibitively expensive to do or even get right. So this is where machine learning really came into its own, to be able to say, here's a bunch of images, this is training data. This set contains faces, this set contains cars. Based on that, figure out from this third set where there's cars or where there's faces, right? So kind of very simple from a requirements perspective, very hard to program, and machine learning and kind of training data-led approach really kind of unlocked this space. The second one is kind of sentiment analysis. Again, you've got a piece of text or, like a news headline or a tweet, perhaps. For us as a kind of human reader, very easy to see, is this person talking about this in a negative manner, positive manner? Is it neutral? Are they being sarcastic? A lot of these things are fairly easy for humans, very hard to code if you had to build something in this space. So again, machine learning really kind of made this capability accessible for a wide range of use cases. And in terms of kind of applicability in the real world, sentiment analysis, you may have kind of you may have had what you've written go through sentiment analysis and not realize. So a common use of that is like feedback forms. So you write a bunch of feedback, and tons of that is coming in. It's hard for a human just to sit there and kind of process it all. However, if you're like a brand management team or marketing team, you kind of want to prioritize on the negative parts or the negative tweets are against your brand and kind of get those percolate to the top, so then a human could look at those. Another use case may be kind of employee satisfaction surveys. Again, wide-ranging free-form text. You just want to kind of look at where the concerns are. So again, you might feed it through a sentiment analysis engine to percolate to the top the kind of really negative ones to take a look at. So those are the two that I kind of picked. And the first thinking, and it was in pure curiosity at the time, is, the cloud providers do make it very easy to consume these services now. You could, get an SDK or even like a REST endpoint to kind of submit text or an image to, and it gives you a whole lot of information back. So the curiosity for me was, is machine learning just this consistent thing regardless of who's providing it? So whether I'm consuming it from AWS versus Google or IBM, is there really a competitive differentiator across them, or it's a utility that it looks the same? I just pick it up whichever cloud provider I've picked for other reasons. And as part of that, it is available, as I said, from the major cloud providers, and they call the same service slightly different things, right? So if you're kind of looking into this or want to kind of do a bit more of your own research afterwards, AWS, typical of their naming strategy, it's somewhat obscure what a service may be. So their text and analytics or natural language processing service is called Comprehend, and the image analysis part of it is called Recognition. For the other three, it's a little bit more self-explanatory. So Microsoft calls theirs text analytics and computer vision, so fairly close to how kind of academia describes these things. Google natural language, from natural language processing, and just quite simply vision for the kind of image side of things. IBM natural language understanding, just to differentiate that. Perhaps they do the understanding part of it a bit better as far as natural language processing goes, and the image side of it is called visual recognition. So this is a demo that I built. Is been around for a couple of years, and so this is a great opportunity for me to kind of get more users looking at it and trying out the live demo. Why news analysis? So looking around for material, how do you do a fair comparison? How do you submit ever-changing real-world text and imagery to the services to be able to get a consistent kind of result for comparison? So news fits that bill quite well, right? So you have a headline, maybe even there's a kind of summary extract for the article. There's always an image associated with the news. So it produces quite good material for a demo like this. And I started off initially looking at BBC News. So they have a fairly comprehensive RSS feed, nicely laid out with kind of image link references, the headline, the description, the link to the full article, all well and good, started off very well. But unfortunately, after about a year of the demo running, BBC decided to change their RSS feed completely to remove the image aspect of it for copyright reasons. So I was left kind of looking around to see what else could replace it. And fortunately, CNN News was structured in a very similar way, where you have RSS feeds just split by category. So whether it's international news, technology news, business news, etc., very like for like to what I already had coded to with the BBC RSS feed. So it was quite a nice transition. Fortunately, I was able to do that and keep the demo alive. And sample results then, right? So what was the findings? First of all, I was very surprised that there is a difference. So kind of the conclusion first is, you've got to be careful what service you pick, because the level of detail you get back from the image side or how accurate sentiment can be determined can be wildly different. And in this case, it really demonstrates the kind kind of immaturity, perhaps, in a sense, of these capabilities, and they've still got a way to go, right? So we're far away from robots taking over all our jobs and doing everything for us, because even from these two simple machine learning examples as services, it wasn't clear cut as though wow, right, this is going to replace us as humans. I did not get that feeling at all. And to kind of zoom in on this particular example, it's talking about some codeine syrup epidemic in Nigeria is very deadly, talking about addiction. Just from first glance, as far as the headline and the summary is concerned, as humans, we'd say, this is definitely kind of negative sentiment, right? It's not good news that it's describing. But then if you do the sentiment analysis across, say, AWS or Azure or Google, they're not even agreeing on what the result is, right? AWS is just on the fence, it's saying neutral, right? Which is still a bad result, right? It's sort of like, it's better to say no result than, oh, it's definitely neutral, right? You can see how that could be a logic break. Azure is doing very well in that it's identified it as negative, but this is the kind of outlier. Why did Google's natural language processing come back and say this is a positive piece of news? On the second dimension, in terms of this image of someone taking this cough syrup, describing that, if you couldn't see the image and you were relying on these kind of labels to tell you, again, fairly different approaches I've noticed, where AWS, its recognition service is coming back with a lot more labels, right? So 12 labels compared to 3 and 8. And it seems quite kind of verbose in terms of it's a human, it's people, it's person, it's face. I mean, it's all correct, but sometimes that your use case or whatever you're doing with the description might need the verbose nature of it. That might be helpful. Or you could be more about, the focused, exactly what it is label is what is more valuable to me. So if that's your approach, Microsoft Azure is coming out quite well here. It's a person who's outdoor and it's a man, right? So personal kind of preference, and it's all to do with the use case again at the end of the day. But at first glance, it looks like a more focused 3 label accurate result is better than trawling through 12 labels and looking at each of the kind of confidence scores as well. Google seems like it's kind of in the middle of the two. It's got eyewear picked out, so there's shades being worn by that person there, so not being picked out by others. Sunglasses, glasses, human. So it seems to have prioritized, the kind of fashion accessory there. So again, if you're doing image analysis to drive that kind of use case, maybe like tailored shopping recommendation service type thing, that service seems better geared there. Further example, again, just picking out where they couldn't even agree, right? Which I think for me shows a lot more than where they are agreeing. Again, this article is fairly negative, even from kind of a quick glance. It's talking about violence. It's talking about thousands fleeing conflict. It's seems pretty clear from us, from a human analysis perspective. AWS again on the fence. That seems like a very common approach. Azure's come back as negative or good, and again the positive one, which is a bit strange, from Google here. On the image analysis side, the theme, it continues, 19 labels for that image alone, versus just saying it's a person who's outdoor. Or this one's a bit more interesting from the Google side, it's a product. I don't know where it's got product there, but it does seem like it's got a leaning towards accessories and products and so on. And tribe, perhaps is a bit more useful, and tradition, I'm not sure what that's referring to there. But, just 2 examples just showing you the stark difference across them. These 2 examples did start off when my demo was just looking at AWS, Azure, and Google. Since then, I did add IBM's Watson service. So it's that same article again. So just to kind of recap, is the Myanmar violence. I submitted it again, and this is kind of more recent. And the kind of takeaway here is that Google has now changed its results. So it was previously kind of showing positive for this, and now it's negative. So it's also indicating how these things are still in constant development. The labels have also changed. It's gone to people, human, adaptation. Again, still a little bit abstract, but it just goes to show the same item submitted, approximately 12 months apart is now giving you different results. So there is a lot of kind of training and development of the service still ongoing, I would assume. I haven't got any insider knowledge on that, but I'm just inferring from what I'm seeing. IBM, they actually kind of promote themselves as being like stronger as far as sentiment analysis and natural language processing goes. So I do expect to see a bit more accurate sentiment analysis. So we'll see some results on that. What did they go for in terms of labels? So people, person, chestnut red color. Okay, so that might be useful for somebody, but that's oddly enough the 100% confidence score for that label. That the 100% sure there's chestnut color in there. So if you kind of look at this through the lens of a developer looking to implement some use case powered by machine learning services like this, what kind of labels you get back, what kind of format, the level of verbosity versus kind of abstract concepts, how reliable it's kind of determining sentiment. It underscores the message that you can't throw your eggs in one basket. At the very least, have the ability to submit the responses to multiple providers and kind of merge the results to create your own blended result, or at least be able to take the best of whatever the result is that comes back from each. So this is at the heart of this demo. As far as the app goes, it's basically a JavaScript application doing messaging, and then we've got the Solace event broker taking a request message, doing the HTTP translation to do a post to each of these different REST service endpoints from these cloud providers. There's actually 2 each, so 8 requests go out in total, and then they come back to show you the results. And this is another one where, even though up till now I said Microsoft seems to be doing well on the sentiment analysis, that's not always the case, right? So then you can get a third result that's on the fence, neutral for this, whereas everybody else is negative. So then you've got to decide, what does that mean? So shocked at Australian GP Grand Prix going ahead. So there's shocking and coronavirus and pandemic, but these two are saying this is neutral neutral news. So draw your own conclusions, basically. That's the backstory of what it's about, what I was trying to kind of find for myself. But this is a public demo, so you should all be able to kind of submit your own news results based on kind of live CNN feeds today. And it's also a Git repo, so you can kind of check it out and deploy this yourself if you wanted to, and kind of make tweaks to the code. It's all available. So with that, then I'll shift to my browser, which is here. And so when you kind of first hit this page, you'll see this fetch happen. So what's happening in this top pane is your news articles. This is kind of doing a get towards the RSS feed every time you load it, and you've got multiple gets possible. So there's multiple RSS feeds. So if you wanted to kind of do technology news, this will do a get against the technology edition RSS feed. And every so often I find interesting results that I then pick out and save. And that's your last item here, curated examples. So the examples I had in the demo here, they are saved. So the extract that you get from the RSS feed, the XML, I just kind of copy that, and I have my own kind of static lookup of those XMLs. So there's some articles that should give you, interesting results. So this was about the royal baby, and everybody's kind of positive about the royal baby news. But again, even on that, AWS is on the fence neutral. So it just doesn't seem to shift royal neutral very often, as far as I can see. But this gave a nice result because it's quite a obscure image, right? So there's some artillery gun being fired in salute of the birth of a new royal baby, and you get some interesting results like, there's a machine, there's a wheel, there's a person, human, cannon, weaponry, and smoke. Okay, so near the end is getting a bit more close to what the image actually is. You've got sky, outdoor, aircraft. Now there's no aircraft in sight. This is an artillery gun, but you can see that as far as the training goes, it's kind of inferring some probably associated things that might be in the image, right? So you've got smoke and weaponry, but then, airplane, engine, missile, these seem like they're just, completely inferred because there's nothing like that in the image. So maybe a little bit of insight again how their kind of approach to the services. Google, pretty kind of concise again. It's a cannon, there's smoke, and there's some sort of a vehicle. I think that's probably the most actionable set of labels here. IBM saying it's a cannon, gun, weapon, it's field artillery, weaponry. So yeah, it's a bit more useful, and some of these are just variations of each other, right? So weapon and weaponry. That you could say there's a little bit of a cheating going on there, but still, at least it's in the right territory. And this link is available to you to kind of go through these curated examples yourselves, or just see what the latest CNN news is from the international edition. Let's see what the submission of that is. So this is about White House stuff, American politics, neutral. Watson is saying it's positive. So is it positive? Don't know, debatable, depending on your political leanings, I suppose. So that's it. That's the demo. It's available live and public. That's the link. Try your own submissions. And if you do like it, there's some share buttons here. Please do help spread the word.
Perfect. Jamil, thanks for this demo. It's definitely interesting to see different cloud providers in action and how they interact with the same piece of article and how you have different kind of results. We had some comments on YouTube coming in how AWS, of course, will use some peculiar naming conventions for their services, as you mentioned. And one question that came in from Twitch about your sentiment analysis part. So for the sentiment analysis part, is the image submitted to the cloud service, or is it the image with the headline, like on the headline text for the sentiment analysis?
So it's two different requests right now.
Yeah.
So sentiment analysis is just looking at text. That's right. All it does. And the image itself from the attached article is being submitted to the image analysis side. Now you could then blend it further, right? Which is, I think, is a good point, where you could get the labels back and then maybe submit that again to sentiment analysis to see, what was the image describing. But usually it's described in fairly kind of abstract ways. So I'm not sure you'll be able to glean much sentiment from it, but it's worth a kind of follow-up. I think that's a good kind of extension to this. If somebody wanted to pick it up and kind of continue the experiment.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. And again, Jamil, thanks for joining us. I will be following up with you after and giving you a swag bag as well for joining us. Anyone who's joining us right now, I'd like to show them this is our Solace community. We have a thread where we have our lightning talks in there. If you have any follow-up questions for Jamil or Florian for the previous talk, feel free to put it in the Solace community over here, and we will follow up with that. But apart from that, Jamil, thanks for this. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye then.
Bye now.